I never thought I'd find myself in a place like this. The cold metal walls of the station glowed with an eerie, flickering light, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and shift on their own. I tugged my jacket tighter around me, the chill in the air seeping into my bones. My name's Samara Vance, but most folks just call me Sam. And right now, I was regretting every decision that led me to this godforsaken outpost on the edge of human space. The mission was supposed to be simple: get in, retrieve the data, and get out. But things never go according to plan, do they? "Hey, Sam, you good?" My partner, Ryder, called from behind me. His voice echoed in the narrow corridor, startling me out of my thoughts. Jackson was a big guy, with a permanent scowl etched on his face, but he had a heart of gold. "Yeah, just peachy," I muttered, pushing forward. "Let's get this over with." We continued down the hallway, our footsteps echoing in the silence. The station had been abandoned for years, a relic from a time when humanity was still exploring the stars, looking for a new home. But something had gone wrong here, and it was our job to find out what. As we reached the main control room, the door hissed open, revealing a mess of wires, broken screens, and a thick layer of dust. The air was stale, and I could taste the decay. "All right, let's find that data core and get out of here," I said, moving to the nearest terminal. I wiped the dust away and tried to boot it up. The screen flickered to life, but the system was slow, groaning under the weight of years without maintenance. "Hey, Sam, look at this," Jackson called from across the room. He was standing by a broken window, staring out into the void. I walked over, peering out. What I saw made my blood run cold. There, floating in the darkness, was a massive ship. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, sleek and black, with strange symbols etched into its hull. It looked almost alive. "Is that what I think it is?" Jackson whispered, his voice barely audible. "Yeah," I replied, my throat dry. "It's one of theirs." The Zarnath, the alien race that had nearly wiped out humanity during the war. We'd thought we'd driven them back, but here was proof that they were still out there, watching, waiting. "We need to get out of here," I said, turning away from the window. "Now." Before we could move, the station shuddered and the lights flickered. A low, humming noise filled the air, growing louder and louder. "Sam, what's happening?" Jackson yelled, his eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," I reply, frantically trying to access the terminal. The screen flashed red, and a warning message appeared: "Intruders detected." "Shit," I muttered. "They're here." The door behind us burst open, and a group of Zarnath soldiers stormed in, their chitinous armor glinting in the dim light. They moved with terrifying speed, their eyes glowing a menacing blue. "Jackson, get down," I shouted, pulling my blaster from its holster. I fired off a few shots, the bolts of energy sizzling through the air. 2 of the soldiers dropped, but more kept coming. Jackson was already moving, his rifle spitting fire as he backed towards the door. "Sam, we need to fall back." I nodded, covering his retreat as we ducked into the hallway. The Zarnath were right behind us, their guttural voices echoing in the narrow space. "This way," I yelled, leading Jackson down a side corridor. We ran as fast as we could, the station shaking around us. The Zarnath ship must have latched onto the station, trying to tear it apart. We rounded a corner and found ourselves in a storage room. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my heart pounding in my chest. "What now?" Jackson asked, his breathing heavy. "We need to find a way off this station," I said, scanning the room. My eyes landed on a maintenance hatch in the floor. There. That should lead us to the escape pods. We pried the hatch open and climbed down, the metal ladder creaking under our weight. The maintenance tunnels were cramped and dark, but they offered some protection from the Zarnath. As we crawled through the tunnels, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I kept glancing over my shoulder. "Sam, do you hear that?" Jackson whispered. I strained my ears and heard a faint clicking noise, like nails tapping on metal. "Yeah," I replied, gripping my blaster tighter. "Stay sharp." We continued on, the clicking growing louder. Finally, we reached the end of the tunnel and climbed out into a small room. The escape pods were lined up against one wall, their doors open and ready. "We made it," Jackson said, relief evident in his voice. "Not yet," I reply, my eyes scanning the room. Something's not right. Before I could react, a Zarnath soldier dropped from the ceiling, landing between us and the escape pods. It snarled, its mandibles clicking. "Get to the pod," I yelled, firing at the creature. Jackson didn't hesitate, sprinting for the nearest pod. The Zarnath lunged at me, and I barely managed to dodge its claws. "Come on, you ugly bastard," I muttered, unloading my blaster into its chest. The creature screeched and fell to the floor, smoke rising from its wounds. "Sam, let's go," Jackson shouted from the pod. I sprinted over, diving into the pod just as he hit the launch button. The door slammed shut, and we were propelled away from the station, the force pressing us back into our seats. We watched through the viewport as the station grew smaller and smaller, the Zarnath ship still latched onto it. Then, with a blinding flash, the station exploded, a fiery ball of light consuming both the station and the alien ship. "Holy shit," Jackson breathed, his eyes wide. "We did it." "Yeah," I replied, my heart still racing. "But this isn't over." Not by a long shot. We sat in silence for a while, the stars streaking past us. I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd just opened a can of worms, that this was just the beginning. "We need to warn the others," I said finally. "The Zarnath are back, and they're not going to stop until we're all dead." Jackson nodded, his face grim. "Then let's make sure we're ready for them." As our escape pod hurtled through space, I couldn't help but think of all the lives that would be lost, all the battles yet to be fought. But one thing was certain, I wasn't going to give up. Not now, not ever. My name is Samara Vance, and I'm going to make damn sure humanity survives.